Headed to Medellin, Colombia? See my guy Andres with Nomad Travel for safe airport pickups and drop-offs and tours. Contact information in the description below. It is February 10th, 2022, and the Philippines has officially reopened today to tourists. Follow along.
Hey, you watching, man, right now? You're watching dcbornrob on YouTube.
Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is you're located. Thanks for watching. My name is Rob Christian, also known as DC Born Rob, DC Rob, or Rob. I answer to them all. Thank you guys for watching. Again, I have a special guest today. I have Mike from Myks Philippine Journey. From the Philippines, that's right, guys. We talked about the Philippines being open, and now I brought in somebody that can help us get there. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me here. Totally appreciate it.
Okay, hey, so I ran across Mike's videos about a week or two ago and reached out to him, and we've communicated. I think he actually was looking in Colombia and ran across one of my videos. We're about the same level of subscribers. He's gotten me a whole lot quicker than I have. And he's in a good position right now to take it even further. So congrats on the recent climb in viewers. And of course, those who take the second to go down and hit subscribe and like. So as you're watching this video, let me go ahead and stop and say, take a second and go down and hit like and subscribe if you ever get any benefit out of my videos. So Mike, let's just jump straight into it right now. It is the eve of the 9th of February. What happens tomorrow?
Well, it's Philippines finally opens up. I mean, where there's been guys who've been waiting for 2 years for the Philippines to open up, and some guys have left their wives there because they couldn't renew their stay. Some guys, unfortunately, in the beginning of their journey to find a potential mate in the Philippines, met people online, and then all of a sudden the thing happened, and so there's been a 2-year lull. So luckily enough, finally the government made a decision to open the borders up and allow pretty much everybody else to be able to arrive into the Philippines now.
Okay. How long were they closed? Exactly 2 years?
It closed, was open and closed, but pretty much the first closure was around April. So it's going to be pretty much 2 years within the next month where it's been a full closure. I mean, there were some countries allowed depending on where it was, but it wasn't going to be coming from Europe, coming from Australia, coming from America, where the typical foreign men is coming from. The things that were open were countries that didn't really travel to the Philippines. Of course, China was open as well, but that was pretty much it. Okay. Now, I saw, and I did a video on the fact that they're opening. I saw a few stories, and I read the stories, within the past week or so. But, of course, things change. People put out policy, but you don't know the details. So can you give my viewers what the details are as far as, is there still a quarantine? Do we have to take a PCR test and so on? Yeah, so there's a couple of different changes. And as a matter of fact, once they open it up, they added an extra change 2 days later. So a lot of guys don't even know about the new addition to it. But typically, to be able to enter the Philippines, you have to be fully vaccinated. That's number one. You must have your card, your proof of vaccine, which is typically what they want is a WHO. It's that yellow card. But there's the agreement between the United States and the Philippines as well, where the white card that you get from your pharmacy is going to be used and it's going to be allowed. So you must have at least the 2 vaccines. Booster is an option, but the 2 vaccines is important. Before you're able to enter the Philippines, you must have a negative PCR test, the RT-PCR test. So that's the test that comes direct from the lab. This is not the one that you can purchase at Walmart or CVS, where it's the over-the-counter, the OTC over-the-counter. You must have the PCR test. And the wording there is within 48 hours of your flight. So if you get it 3 days before, it's not going to count. So you must get it within 48 hours to be able to enter the Philippines. And in addition to that, your passport must be valid for a minimum of 6 months. So if your passport's not, it's going to expire in 3 months, they're not going to let you enter. It has to be a minimum of 6 months in order for them to be able to enter. In regards for the quarantine, it's not required no more like in the past. What they say is that you must be able to number one, home quarantine. So pretty much they're letting you do and make a decision, and you have to self-report if you feel that you're getting any symptoms. But one thing we all know, a lot of guys are not going to report that in if they're feeling the symptoms, right? So, but you should report that for the government to be able to allow you to be able to come in. Now, there's another one that just got added recently, 2 days after they released that they're going to open up the Philippines, and that is you have to have a insurance, health insurance with a minimal coverage of $35,000. That's the minimum that they're going to require that you actually have in order to be able to enter the Philippines. This is not the insurance that you get when you check that box when you purchase your ticket, because that's just to cover your tickets. It's health insurance. So there's several companies out there that's offering it, or you can check with your current insurance provider to see if they cover international travel as well.
Okay, now I found a site that did it, and you pick and choose, you step through and answer the questions. I believe you did the same thing, so I may want that from you too before before I post this video anyway, because the one that I stepped through, I think, and you guys need to know that it's going to be age dependent too. So
Yes.
I think I saw you do it a couple times. You did it at 40, 43, I think, and then you did it
Yes.
at 59 or something like that. Well, I did it also, and I did it for my current age, which I'm 59, and mine came to 101, and it was one for 130 and 140, I think, like that. But that was $50,000 worth of coverage. It included COVID. They word things in a certain way, and if you're like me, you kind of leery about insurance. In other words, I think they're not trying to pay anyway, so they're going to fight you even though you paid for it. But there were a lot of good reviews, and that's the good thing about purchasing things online. People have already given feedback to say, okay, this is a good deal. And it covered this, it did cover that, it covered my luggage, it covered my hotel, because what happens if you get somewhere and you get it? I was in Colombia a few weeks ago, but I was extra specially careful. I didn't want people coming around me. I knew I needed to come back. I tried ivermectin. I made sure I flushed my nose. I made sure, because I had to come home. So, and I'm sure a lot of these guys have work too and cannot have this issue either. So be aware that you have to have that travel insurance outside of your flight. Like Mike said, you can't just add that. I mean, I'm going to add it anyway, because I'm that type of person that does extra and extra. PCR test, a PCR backup PCR test. And you mentioned one thing, you have 2 days now, you have 48 hours, which is not a lot of time for a PCR test. Sometimes depending upon how busy that lab is, they may push it back to 3. But you can ask that they expedite it for travel, because that's what I've done the past few times that I had to leave the country. Even going to Colombia, I didn't need it. I still went ahead and did it and told them, yeah, get it done. It was like, it says 12 to 24 hours, I think. So you'll have it within that first 2-day period. And really the only people who are going to ask that, my personal thoughts are anyway, because that's who's asked me, is the people at the airport, the airlines. They're the first line they're the ones that are going to question you way before you get to immigration on the other side. So just be aware, there is no quarantine, but there is insurance and there is a PCR test requirement, unlike Colombia. So, and don't complain about it, guys. They're open. We've been waiting 2 years. Come on. They open. So, I mean, we got to deal with it. But now, I also heard you, and I heard a few other people vlogging go over, should they go right now? Like tomorrow's the 10th. I personally wouldn't fly, and I personally wouldn't fly the first week or so either, but maybe not even the first month. What are your thoughts on that? Should they go right now, or should they wait until all the kinks get worked out?
My question always to people is like, do you want to be the guinea pig? And so you have to understand there's kinks. They haven't had travel come into the Philippines in a while. So there's going to be kinks that's going to happen. Unfortunately, that happens with developing countries. And so is this something that can you wait another couple months? Is it really to the part that, you need to be there? Now, if you have your kids, your wife there, you've been really just been wanting to see that girl you've been talking to, then go ahead and do it. But you also have to understand you need to look into your funds. Sometimes these guys saved up their money to travel 2 years ago, but they end up depleting it a little bit. And then don't forget, the ticket costs are high right now. Typically, if you're going to fly from Chicago, for example, it would cost you somewhere around $800, $900 for a round trip ticket. Right now, it's going to cost you $1,400 just for one way. So like a good friend of mine, he's moving to the Philippines fully. So, he paid round trip ticket 1,200. I mean, a one-way ticket 1,200, and then ended up paying what they call a throwaway ticket because he's staying in the Philippines. He paid $300 for a ticket from the Philippines to Malaysia, just what they call the throwaways. And that ticket alone used to only cost me $75 to travel one way from the Philippines to Malaysia, or Philippines to Thailand, or Philippines to Vietnam. So for me wise, I would always say wait, because look at what happened with Thailand. When they opened up, something happened. They ended up closing it down. That's a problem. The next thing that people need to understand is the Philippines is open, but they're going against the WHO rules. So you have the different the red code, the orange code, the yellow code, right? And so they would depend on who would be allowed in the country. What the Philippines did is they just removed those things and they said, we don't care. But if you look at the US embassy and the CDC, it is warning people not to go to the Philippines because it's considered a level 4 right now. So whether you believe on what's going on or not, there may be a chance. You have to think about this, is that you're there for 2 weeks. What if, you become positive for your return to your respective country? So I love the fact that what you were saying earlier about you got the extra, the COVID positive. So the stay, for example, so there's an option in the insurance that, for your quarantine hotel can be paid off if you pay a little bit extra. Because the thing though is, if your funds is only enough for 2 weeks to travel to the Philippines, and then you get stuck because you turn positive, it may take about 10 to 12 to 14 days before you get your first negative. Well, then do you have extra funds to pay for the hotels that you're going to be staying in while you're there? So, for me wise, to be honest, I would always tell people is just to let at least 60 days pass. If you've waited 2 years already, what's another 60 days? But if you go there, then go, and you should be able to enjoy yourself as well, because there's less people coming in.
Exactly. And you're right. Check the US State Department website also. So if they say it's a level 4, that's the highest. That's where Colombia is right now. Do we still go? Yeah, we still go. And well, I won't get in which is safer and so on like that, because I want to hold off on that for a second. But make sure you check out the State Department's website to know what level, whatever country you're going to is. Do due diligence and do your research before you book the flight. Okay, another thing, like Mike said, tickets are expensive. Yes, that first day I checked, it was $14 to $20 something $100 round trip.
Yes.
I have chosen some days in late February, which is the next couple of weeks, outside of 2 weeks, up until like mid-March. And I got it to, instead of going to Cebu, I got it going to, I just looked to Manila, and it's at $1,100 round trip. 2 flights each way, because it's normally 3 to get there. So 2, at least for me, coming from Houston, but that's 2 flights to get to Manila. And you know how much a ticket was from Manila to Cebu? It's like $59. I said, really? And then you don't have to jump through any more hoops. Just book that cheap flight. I mean, you save probably $500. So get creative on it also. Use your VPN when you book too. Use your VPN for New York. Use your VPN for California. Use your VPN for the Philippines and see if it gets you a better flight. They do adjust the flight tickets depending upon where you are. They're looking at your IP address to know where you are. So use your VPN for that also. But so you think they should hold off on for a couple of months? And I know, okay, so they have been closed for a couple of years. What's it going to be like? I mean, they've been shut down, and then they just had Odette or whatever the name of the typhoon.
Typhoon Odette.
Yeah, and so they've been going through some struggles. So I mean, is it worth it for us Americans, for my American guys and gals who normally jump on a 2 or 4 hour flight, 2 to 5 hour max to get to Colombia from the States? Is it worth them? And there's differences, of course, financially, but is it worth them getting on 2 and 3 planes to go through to the Philippines, or 2 if you're going to Manila? So, okay, only 2 flights. Is it worth? What are your thoughts on as far as, okay, I'm going to make that move to go to the Philippines versus okay, going to Colombia. For those who say, well, Colombia is dangerous, it's too, oh no, it's too much going on. And I get that. I know there's some issues, but there's, you know, I don't want to justify, but there's issues everywhere. But so what are your thoughts, Mike? What are your thoughts on, okay, I'm not going to take that 4-hour flight, but I'll take a 24-hour flight?
Yeah, so, you know, before opening up to the public, I mean, to international, right? The Philippines have been working in their, you know, domestic travel and domestic tourism, because that's where the Philippines make the majority of their money, is domestic tourism from their own people traveling from place to place. So domestically wise, it's doing well if you're going to go to the major places. Like, for example, you're going to go to the island of Boracay, you're going to go to Palawan, if you're going to be touring around Manila and Cebu and stuff like that. All of that stuff, it's pretty much getting close to, unfortunately, we have to say, the new normal type of a stuff. And if you have your vaccine cards, you know, like the malls, they require that you have to have your proof of vaccination. So you have those anyways, because that's the only way you can enter the country. So, you know, with that said, traveling within the country is really good. And actually traveling within the country right now is cheap. It's just getting to the country internationally is where things goes up. But within the country, you know, traveling, like you found a ticket for $59, you said, right? You can get what they call the peso deals like that easily. And yeah, it's pretty cheap traveling from Manila to Cebu. If you're going to go Cebu to Davao City, or if you're going to go, you know, Cebu to Angeles City or whatever like that, those ticket prices are pretty good already. And I mean, good deals, that's pretty good.
Okay, you mentioned something too about the malls. How are businesses going to handle this? Do visitors need to carry the vaccine cards with them into the mall, into the bar, into the nightclub?
So most of the malls, especially what they call SM. So SM is like the brand name mall in the Philippines that has the best malls. I mean, that, you know, so that's Shoemart mall system. So they're requiring that. Some of the smaller malls are requiring it. In regards for certain bars, like the more higher end ones, they do require it. But I always say it's the Philippines, so sometimes they're very lax once things are going on. So you should definitely go ahead and carry those cards with you. That's my biggest suggestion, because you never know when you are going to go to the mall anyway. So just have it with you at all times and you'll be perfectly fine. The other option is when you land in the Philippines, they do have an app that you can download as well, and you can have that activated. So because there's certain places where, you know, once you have your app, you can just have it QR coded. And so, you know, you go in, they scan it, you're in, because they know you're in a system, so it's a lot faster for you. So there's options that you have as a person traveling within the Philippines. But the smaller restaurants, McDonald's, Jollibee, Max Chicken, all those kind of places, they're not going to card you.
Okay, so that code, that app, are you aware if you can download the app before you, well, I'm sure you can download it, but can you activate it before you even get to the Philippines?
Unfortunately, if you go to your Google store or your Apple store, you won't be able to see it here in this, in the States. But when you land in the Philippines, you should be able to do it.
So you have to wait till you get to the airport there.
Yep.
Who does it? I mean, how do you take the information from your card and make it electronic?
Because remember, you have your PCR cards. So once you have your negative test, then they have the proof that you are negative, and so you can do your sign up from there. They have the sign up people in the mall. Not in the mall, in the airports. So if you guys, if some of you guys travel in the US a lot and you guys use Clear, where they do the automatic scanning with your retinas and stuff like that, they have the booths like that you can do the initial download and set up right there.
Okay, I actually have Clear, and that's actually the one electronic version that I have, but that's for the vaccine, not for the test though. You are talking about the vaccine.
I'm talking about the vaccine, because because remember, you're going to have your vaccine and you're going to have your negative PCR test, so you can do the sign up right there. Okay, so you have to show both of them.
It'll be a human being there to assist us.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one thing in the Philippines. It's very still, even though the US doesn't use the app, doesn't have their own app for the whole US, right? But the Philippines does. But when it comes to the sign up parts, yes, they're still going to be human beings. It's going to be helpful to help you guide you through the download and everything. So a good example is like what happens is when you go in, you just use your camera. They have a QR code there. You scan that, it automatically sends you to the store where to download it right away. And then you just do the information and enter the information in there.
Okay. So there you go, guys. The Philippines is officially open tomorrow, the 10th in the morning, and I'm sure there's Americans on those first flights there too. So I'll be looking for the news. You do not need to quarantine. You can download an app once you get there so that you can have an electronic version of your vaccine card, because who wants to carry around that? You lose that and you have real problems. I don't even know what it all consists of to get a duplicate made. But I may want to research that for the United States just to have that extra. I don't like not having a backup of something.
Oh, it's easy. It's easy to get a duplicate. A friend of mine did it, actually. All he did was he went to Walmart. He says, I lost my card. And then they looked up his information, gave him a brand new card, but he actually still had his old card, so he has both cards.
And they printed it?
Well, you have that white index card, for example, right? So you have the white index card, and then they just handwrite it in there. They don't print it out for you. So they just handwrite the lot number, the expiration date of whatever vaccine you got, the date that you got it, your booster, your secondary shot and everything. So that he just has two of them. So now he has two, when he heads out and everything like that. Like for me, I got my vaccine when I was in the Philippines. So when I got my vaccine in the Philippines, I have the app. So I don't have to worry about getting the vaccine card here in the US no more. So because I left the Philippines in November, and I'm going to be heading back out there probably end of April, just because of business and everything.
So this is what I didn't know, that there is a record somewhere here of everybody who's been vaccinated and boosted.
Yes.
Obviously, so they log into that system somehow, take that information and handwrite it on the card again.
Yes.
I need to go get that done. I like having my stuff prepared just in case. Okay, Mike, is there anything else? Because I want to change the subject right quick. Is there anything else you can think of as far as, okay, the Philippines is open, the door is open, come on down. Anything else about the opening?
We will find out what the problems are in the next 48, 72 hours. Because then I'm going to have some guys reporting to me and say, this is what happened to me and everything like that. We just won't know until everything opens up. So, I mean, like, at this very moment, technically it's open already because it's the 10th over there. So if somebody left, a couple hours ago, they would land in the Philippines at 10 already. Because right now it's currently morning time in the Philippines right now. So it's 7:35 Eastern in the US right now. So right now in the Philippines, it's 8:35 in the morning. So when they say it opens up at 10, it doesn't mean you leave the 10th from your country. You just have to enter there on the 10th. So that's how that's set up.
You know what? Just wait a minute. Okay, so we lose days coming back. We gain days going there. Okay, I'll get it all together. Okay, so I appreciate you sitting with us, Mike. Don't go nowhere. I'm going to hold on to you for a second longer. But remember, this is Mike from Mike's Philippine Journey. So make sure you check out his YouTube channel. You go over, you click like for sure, and you subscribe. If you want some information on going to the Philippines, this is my guy there right now. So make sure you reach out to Mike, okay? But now I want to switch things a little bit forward. So this will officially be part 2. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, make sure you go down and hit subscribe. And definitely like. It helps that YouTube algorithm. You know what I'm talking about? See what I'm saying?
We have a YouTube channel. Like it.
Please comment and share if you liked the video. Please subscribe and kick the bell.